Hello friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story where OP, working at a self-checkout area, encounters a customer who ignores the obvious signs that a register's out of service, even though the register is lifted up and clearly not operational. You need signs. So at my self-checkout, the registers will go down for different reasons. If we can't fix it quick, then we shut it down. By that, I mean that we will turn off lights and lift the register so you can see the inside. I've had multiple people still try to scan with the register looking like that, but this is the most baffling. Me, see 60-year-old lady about to scan at a lifted-up register. Me, oh, I'm sorry, you can't scan there. Register's down because it didn't want to work today. Lady, well, how was I supposed to know? Me, sorry again. Lady, you need to have more signs that let people know that they can't use it. I left because I honestly couldn't think of a better response than, what sign is more clear than the fact the register isn't even there? And I didn't want to get screamed at into next week for saying it. I always thought the tales of customers ignoring the obvious were faked, but oh my word. My God, what a display of willful ignorance. I mean, come on, how much clearer can you get than literally lifting the register off its hinges and exposing the guts of the machine? OP handled this far better than I would have because, honestly, what sign could possibly outdo a half-dismantled register? A flashing neon billboard? A skywriter? The kicker, though, is the lady demanding more signs while completely ignoring the most blatant out-of-order display ever created. It's almost as if some customers think the world should adapt to their tunnel vision. Hats off to OP for keeping their cool instead of saying, "Ma'am, the sign is the missing register." And our second story. Petty garden revenge. 2 years ago, my partner and I bought our first home. It's a lovely little 3-bed, semi-attached with the front patio. There's no back garden as a house is attached at the back. Since moving in, it's been wonderful. All our neighbors are lovely, and we've gotten on really well with them all. Well, we've tried to. Our neighbor next to us is slightly overbearing when it comes to what we do in our garden. There were 3 small trees on our side of the fence next to her side. When we moved in, the only big plants in this patio area were 3 trees, a row of conifers next to the road, and gate to stop people looking in, and a wisteria and on the front of the house. The trees have overgrown and dangling in her garden. We just moved in, and the first thing she said to us was that the trees needed sorting. Not a problem. Didn't want to upset anyone, so we cut them back and pulled all the branches off that dangled tree on her side. At this point, I got a bit snippy-happy with the shears and cut the trees right down. Don't worry, they're fine and growing back upright and not out. One of them was next to the shed and was tiny and not doing well, so I decided to cut it down completely. It was about 4 feet tall, so didn't go over the fence. When she came back, she leaned over the fence whilst I was in our garden and proceeded to try and calmly tell us that she has lost privacy in her garden. I say calmly, she was almost spitting feathers through gritted teeth. We just said, oh, they'll grow back, and that we needed to clear it out as the wisteria was attaching itself to the tree and going up into the roof tiles. Well, just don't cut it anymore. Okay, once again, been in the house 3 months and didn't want to upset anyone. At this point, being a woman, I knew what this other woman was like. My partner, however, didn't get it, but this'll change. At this time, she asked us what we're going to do with the shed. Now, this garden shed is adorable. I had a little vine growing around the trim of the roof with flowers that dangle down all around it. So I wanted to paint it a sort of dark plum purple to make the white flowers pop even more. After I said this, she said, oh, you can't paint it that color. I'll have to look at it. I think you should just leave it as it is or stain it the color it is. Now, I was spitting feathers, but through a shut mouth, I couldn't believe it. The audacity of someone telling me I can't paint my shed a color I want in my garden because she would have to see it. The bit she would only see is the back of it that sticks out above the fence, and we can't even get it to paint. But again, my partner said he didn't want to upset the neighbors, so we left it alone. Fast forward to yesterday. We had friends over cooking pizzas in the garden and have a good catch-up. She has returned home and leaned over the fence again. She recently had some work done in her garden to drop the curb and give herself a little driveway. I said it looked really good and made small talk as she leaned over the fence, My partner says to her that the fence between us needs cleaning. It's gone green and we wanted to paint it. Well, it's my fence, you know. This sudden change in the tone was mental. My friends are just sat there staring at her, and I'm feeling this sort of weird secondhand embarrassment for her. So my partner says, that's fine, but can we clean our side of it with the Karcher? Her response, I use a paintbrush with bleach water to clean it, so that's how you can do it. My partner and her went back and forth about it in a calmish manner, but she was getting more irate after noticing the air was getting more stale. I said, okay, it's getting cold to our friends, let's go inside. Once we got inside, our friends instantly said, what a jerk. After this, my partner said, what color did you want the shed again? So today, we're going to go out and buy the most amazing shade of purple to paint the shed, and I'll wait till she's in to do it with my AirPods on full so I can't hear her complaining. I know it isn't the best revenge, but we've lived here for 2 years, and now I finally get my pretty little shed. Edit, update. She came home and saw it. While she lingered in her garden the entire time I was putting on the second coat, she waited until my partner went inside to tidy the kitchen to pounce on me. She came over and leaned over the fence again and asked me, did you want me to paint the back of the shed for you? I instantly think, oh, she means purple. She's trying to be nice and wants to help, so I said, oh, maybe. Stupid me, people. Then she goes, I can paint it white as this, points at the shed color with her hands and shakes them whilst making a disgusted face. Is, you know, WTF once again, I've been made to feel like crap in my own garden. So I tried to be nice and said, no, it's not going white, and I quickly changed the subject to the fence. I asked her point blank, am I allowed to paint the fence? She said, you can paint it, but you cannot paint it black. So after all this, what's going to happen is this. We're borrowing a pallet truck from our friend up the road, and he'll be pulling the shed out and painting it all purple. This rudeness has finally gotten to me, and I cannot deal with it. Wow, what a ride. OP's journey from patient diplomacy to bold purple revenge is nothing short of brilliant. Their neighbors' constant nitpicking, trying to dictate shed colors, fence cleaning, and even offering to paint the shed white screams entitlement. But the real triumph? OP taking charge and painting the shed exactly as they wanted, with the added touch of moving it out to finish the job properly. It's a loud, colorful message. This is my space, not yours. Bravo to OP for reclaiming their garden in style. Let's jump to the next story, because the drama only gets better from here. And our last story. My neighbor claims they own the land directly outside my house. I live in a row of 7 houses tucked around a corner where you have to drive over a dropped curb to reach us. Parking's always been a bit tight, but lately it's become a real issue thanks to some entitled neighbors. One of our cars is always parked on our driveway around the corner. Yesterday, as I was coming home, I noticed 2 of their cars pulling away from the shared parking spaces. Seizing the opportunity, I drove straight into one of the open spots. As I got out of my car, a young woman came running up to me saying she was about to park there. I was puzzled. Why? I asked. She looked taken aback and repeated, I was going to put my car there. I pointed out that her own driveway was empty. Instead of acknowledging this, she started hurling verbal abuse at me. I calmly responded, everyone has just as much right to park here, and began to walk away. As I did, she shouted, we own the deed to this area, so if you want to be like that, we'll stop you from coming around here altogether. I suspected she was bluffing. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I obtained a copy of their deed to see where we stood. It turns out they have access rights to their driveway and garage beneath their coach house, but they don't own the entire entry road. They have no right to prevent anyone from driving or parking around here. Curious, I also got a copy of my own deed, and here's the kicker. The specific parking space she gave me grief over actually belongs to my house. I couldn't believe it. There's another space next to it, so I checked the deed for our next-door neighbor. Sure enough, that space belongs to them. It became clear that these neighbors have been rotating their 3 cars to block us from using parking spaces that legally belong to us and our neighbors. I was livid, but decided to handle it calmly. Later that evening, I heard a car door slam and saw the same woman outside. I grabbed my phone, preloaded with images of the deeds, and stepped out to talk to her. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? I asked. She walked over and I said, "After what you said yesterday, I looked at the deeds. It turns out this space is actually ours. I have the deed here if you'd like to see." Her response was dismissive. "No, it's not." Trying to keep my cool, I insisted, "Honestly, I have the deed right here. This one's ours and that one's next door's." She retorted, "No, we've had this conversation with your neighbor before. It's not." Realizing I wasn't getting through, I said firmly, "Look, it's my space. Please don't park in it." As I turned to walk back inside, I heard her mutter an insult under her breath. I chose to ignore it. Since she mentioned talking to my neighbor, I decided to check in with them. I knocked on their door and said, "I don't know if you've heard, but I've been having trouble with the woman down the road." They replied, "Yes, we have. She's completely wrong. We've told them before that the space belongs to us, and even our landlord has informed them, but they keep parking there." It was clear we were dealing with some seriously entitled individuals. To address the issue, I printed copies of the deeds and started leaving them on their windshields every time they parked in our spaces. Unfortunately, they ignored them and continued to park illegally. Update: the final straw came when they parked in my spot yet again. This time I called a tow company and had their car removed from my property. When they realized their car was gone, they came knocking, demanding to know where it was. I calmly informed them that since they were parked on private property without permission, I had the vehicle towed. I showed them the deed once more and advised them to retrieve their car from the towing company. They were furious, but there wasn't much they could do. Since then, they've stopped parking in our spaces. The tension isn't completely gone, but at least we have our parking spots back. My freaking goodness, what a satisfying way to handle entitlement. OP did everything right, digging into the deeds, confronting the issue calmly, and then pulling the ultimate power move by calling the tow company when the neighbors refused to respect their space. It's a beautiful example of patience turning into action when pushed too far. The neighbors may not like it, but OP clearly had the facts and the law on his side. The neighbors can't argue anymore without making themselves look even more ridiculous. Justice served, parking reclaimed. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.